Hey everyone, welcome to Bald Guy Money. I am back and healthy and here to talk to you all about how to determine whether it's a good time or a bad time to buy silver. Because I know a lot of you out there rely solely on the gold to silver ratio in order to time your purchases. But what I want to say is that is not the best way to do it. There is a better way. And I want to talk with you all about what my personal methodology is and whether or not silver is cheap or expensive right now based on that methodology. And just before we get into it, please remember to hit the like button to let YouTube know that you like content like this and that more people should see it. So, the price of silver took a big dip on the latest jobs report. And as you can see here, we closed this week at $22.34 per ounce, down 6.5% for the week and down nearly 7% on the year because apparently finding employment at Taco Bell after being fired from your high-paying job at Google is great for stocks and bad for metals. But for those of you who are subscribed to me on Patreon, this was something I was already talking about on January 31st in my monthly newsletter, where I said a good entry point to look for in February for silver would be $20.90 per ounce. And I still think that. And what I also said is if the Fed comes in with a dovish approach, I would be looking for silver to enter the $25.85 to $26.40 range before potentially challenging the $29 level no sooner than April or May. And the reason I'm trying to alert you all to this kind of stuff is because it absolutely breaks my heart to see people getting euphoric about the price of silver as it moves up and buying silver for simply more than they have to. Because the fact is that most silver stackers are one or two-dimensional in how they see the price of silver. They either look at how far it is from the all-time high to determine whether it's a good time to enter or not, or they play the gold to silver ratio to find better entry points. And those things are good, don't get me wrong, but they are not enough to find the absolute best times to buy silver. Because when I am personally looking for entry points to silver, I am looking at the price charts, but I also compare it to a small basket of highly traded commodities. And as you can see here, those commodities are gold, oil, and sugar. And the reason I look at these three commodities is twofold. Number one, they are three of the top 10 traded commodities in the world and give me a sense of where silver is in comparison to a general basket of other commodities. And number two, they each represent a different slice of the economy, with gold representing the strength of the dollar, oil the strength of the production economy, and sugar the cost of food. As usual, my approach is extremely math-based, and I use historic data going all the way back to 1987 in order to determine a baseline upon which I compare the price of silver to the three commodities I've just shown you. And in that calculation, the importance is weighted with 60% of the score being determined by the gold to silver ratio due to their inherent similarities, 35% of the weight determined by the oil to silver ratio due to the importance of industry in determining the price of silver, and 5% for sugar. And as some of the keyboard warriors are typing their insults to my approach right now in the comments section, I just want to assure you all that I have tested multiple different approaches using different baskets of commodities versus the price of silver, as well as different weightings. And what I can say is that this absolutely produced the best result I could actually find versus those other things that I tested. For example, my tool tells me that between 2000 and 2005, silver was quite cheap, and that it didn't become relatively expensive until 2010, the year it crossed the $20 barrier, and a lot of people started entering silver on a craze that pushed the price of silver up to $50 per ounce by 2011. So what is my tool saying right now? Well, it's saying something very important about the price of silver, and I want you all to be aware of it. The tool itself has 3 ratings: cheap, neutral, and expensive. And I am now planning my purchases on the basis of the tool's output, as you can see written beneath each descriptor. And when I woke up on Friday morning and refreshed the data in the tool, what it told me is that the price of silver went from neutral to cheap. And in fact, the price of silver since then has only gotten cheaper as the price has declined more. In fact, what the tool is telling me is that versus the 2022 average price of $21.76 per ounce, at the current price of $22.34 per ounce, silver is actually cheaper now than it was on average in 2022. Do with that information what you will, but I felt it was important to share it with you all right here on the YouTube channel. And if you want access to the tool that I am currently using, you can get access to it when you become a subscriber on my Patreon. I will put a link to the Patreon page in the description of this video, as well as a pinned comment so you can find it in the easiest possible way. And if you want me to do the same analysis I have just done for gold, please take a moment to let me know right now in the comments section, and I will absolutely do a follow-up to this video for the price of gold. Now, moving on to the viewer question for this week, and I am actually going to do 2 because they are both very good. And the first one comes from Lan Shu Gan, and they asked, what if the government forces you to sell your precious metals by signing an order like Executive Order 6102? And that's a great question and something I know a lot of people worry about, and not only in the United States. And I've talked about it a little bit on the channel in the past, but I do want to get into the details of it today because a lot of people out there want to know, if silver and gold represent freedom and real money, why would the government allow you to have it? And my answer is simple: because the government is betting that silver and gold will not return as the dominant medium of exchange. In fact, what they are betting is that the digital fiat CBDC system that they are currently setting up and even starting to test in some places around the world, that this system will replace the paper fiat system we currently use. And if people are willing to work for digital dollars or euros or whatever currency, and that currency is stored in a bank account controlled by the central bank, they can confiscate the value of your labor, which is paid to you in that digital currency, without ever having to knock on your door. They can simply do it digitally from the bank account, which they have full access to. So my message to anybody who is worried about confiscation is stack on, because silver and gold is going to be actually one of the hardest things for them to take away from you. Now to the second question, and it comes from 24 Karat. And it's more of a comment than a question. And what 24 Karat said is, most people look at silver's industrial use as a tailwind. I view it as a headwind. The world cannot afford $50 silver. Industries will just buy their own mines. They can get them cheaper than paying $50 an ounce. And that's a great alternative way of looking at things. And to be honest, these comments are the comments I really treasure the most. Now, my response to this has 2 parts, because on one hand, I agree that major, especially tech companies, tech corporations, are going to be trying to buy silver mines in the near future. In fact, for those of you who saw my 2023 prediction video, you will remember that that was actually one of my predictions for 2023. But supply is supply, and demand is demand. And what I mean by that is this. I've shown this several times on the channel, and it shows how once smart devices like the iPhone and smart TVs were introduced to the market, the price of silver shot up. And this price rise is entirely driven by the supply and demand dynamic. And what I think is that even if corporations start buying their own mines and getting silver out of the ground at the cost of actually mining it, the supply and demand dynamic doesn't actually change, at least not in a massive way. Because if Tesla starts hoarding silver for production of their products, that is supply that is simply out of the market. And we know that the less supply there is, the higher the price has to go, all other things being equal, or as they say in Latin, ceteris paribus. Of course, you're still free to disagree with me, and actually I encourage people to disagree with me and let me know about that in the comments so we can open a healthy discussion about it. But if I can say one thing about tech corporations entering the silver mining game, it's that I think if it's going to have any impact on the price of silver, it's going to have upwards impact on the price of silver and not downwards impact. That said, that's everything I have to say for this video. Thank you again for watching. I want to encourage you all to take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And until the next time we meet, goodbye.